All right, I think we are live, you guys. Good morning, and thank you for being here today.
Morning.
Glad to be here.
Morning, Jessica.
Hi, we are so excited to have you, the four of you here today. So I have Brenda Cunningham with us, and she is the CEO of Push Management, a certified professional resume writer, certified job search strategist, and credentialed career manager. She has written a couple books. She's the author of Crush the Pink Slip, Get Back to Work in 60 Days, and also she podcasts. She's the podcast host of The Day Before Monday on Phoenix Business Radio X. You can also see her frequently online doing her, she does talks all the time on her Facebook page, and so you can always ask her resume questions. We also have Donna Tucker with us. She's the owner of Career Pro Resume Center in Phoenix. She's been writing resumes since 1988 and the founding member of the Resume Writers Council of Arizona, as well as a past executive board member of the National Resume Writers Association. And then Norris is here. She founded Get Results Career Services in 2004. She's helped thousands of customers create compelling resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn profiles, and job search strategies so they can achieve career success. She works with all kinds of people, but she specializes in military service members to transition out of the military. So again, thank you for taking your time for us today, ladies.
Cool.
All right, so we are gonna do a panel, 15, 20 minutes or so. And what I'm gonna do is just kind of go through some of the questions that we've gotten from people and then have you pop around and answer. So first things first, could you each take just a minute and tell us a little bit about why we should believe you, why are you here today, and your impact on this community. So Brenda, why don't you get us started?
Very good. Thank you for having us. We represent the Resume Writers Council of Arizona. My former profession is engineering, so I work with a lot of techies and sales and marketing folks. But as the Resume Writers Council of Arizona, we study the mechanics of resumes. We speak to the hiring community directly to make sure that we're not just offering you our opinions, but actually proven methodologies that will help you succeed in your job search.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brenda. Lori, how about you?
I'll just piggyback on what Brenda said. All three of us are dedicated to continuing education, and that is our job, is to stay on track of on top of what's happening in the industry. And we speak to HR people, recruiters, hiring managers all the time to see what it is that they're looking for, and also knowing about the applicant tracking systems and what's happening with those, so we can help you make it through that screening process.
Awesome, thank you. And Donna Tucker, you are our longest serving volunteer for Career Connectors.
Yeah, I am, aren't I?
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, I am a current national officer of the National Resume Writers Association. And be on the lookout for our Ask the Experts ebook that will be out anytime now, with answers to all your questions about resumes and job search that the National Resume Writers Association is putting out. I'm also recently received my, or earned my NCOPE certification, which is a LinkedIn certification.
Oh, fantastic. Well, the reason I asked the ladies to tell us who they are is because we know there's so much resume advice out there. You know, from Aunt Sally to my sister to somebody I worked with in HR that one time. So, you know, there's tons of advice out there, and I want to make sure our community has the best advice possible so that they can get through the applicant tracking system. So on top of that, we're dealing with a pandemic that just makes it weird. Okay, what is this doing to resumes? You know, is there anything different? Are there any different resume requirements because of what's going on right now? So who'd like to start with this one? Great, Brenda, why don't we start with you?
So the primary difference as I see it is that we're all in this rat race together. And so there are suddenly millions and millions of people in the same position. And so it kind of takes me back to 2007, 2008, when lots of industries were just disrupted, lots of layoffs left and right, people were out of work. And so magically, for one of the first times in history, you could go into an interview and they say, oh, well, what happened in this time period? Oh, well, I was laid off. Okay, let's move on. And so the same is going to be true this time around. Oh, well, I was laid off. Oh, well, I was furloughed. And it just is what it is. And so I really want you to give yourself some grace and kind of be optimistic here, because so many are in the same boat, it's going to just be something that ends up being brushed under the rug. Now, don't take that as license to sit and just cross your fingers and look for a job. This is a prime opportunity to sharpen up that professional development and get some of those other things to show how you're still connected to your profession on that resume. But we do get something of a pass these days because so many are in the same boat.
So good. Donna, what do you have to add to that?
Well, what I want to add is, as she said, there's so many people that'll be in the same boat. So set yourself apart. You don't want to be like everybody else. So as Brenda said, take some professional development. If money's an issue, I just found a free Excel training course online the other day, and I was excited because I really am not good at Excel. Or volunteer, put on your mask and your gloves and your whatever and get out there and volunteer, but fill that gap. It's not just a matter of sitting in front of your computer and scrolling through job opportunities. Show some action so you can fill that gap on your resume with some activity.
So good. That's great. Lori, I'm going to jump over to you, and I want to ask you about the most important things to have on a resume. What are the most important components to include on a resume?
So I would say the first and foremost, you have to have a focus, right? We need a target. We need to be able to look immediately at your resume and know exactly the kind of job that you're targeting. And so a focus is really important. And so you need a common theme that ties that focus together. And then secondly, I would say is measurable accomplishments. So your resume isn't a job history. It's not just here's what I did for the last 10 years. It's really a marketing document that needs to showcase your value. And you show your value and what makes you cost effective as an employee by demonstrating your past measurable accomplishments, how you contributed. So those are the biggest things that I would say need to be on there.
I love that measurable piece, right? Donna, what do you have?
Well, again, to piggyback on Lori, I guess I haven't got a fresh idea of my own today, do I? All these companies coming back from this pandemic have problems. They need to generate revenue. They need to increase efficiency and productivity. Show that you can do that. Be a problem solver. Don't just say, I can solve problems. Show them with those measurable accomplishments.
So good. Brenda.
And I would add, just because of this season of pandemic that we're in, this is such a rare opportunity for people to really demonstrate leadership. And so talk about it on the resume. It's okay. Talk about how you helped your company to pivot during the COVID-19 crisis, right? And so talk about what you did specifically to really help your company to survive, because there are lots of companies that are not going to come out on the other side of this, and plenty that are. And so what did you do specifically? Are you the one that introduced video conferencing to your organization? Are you the one that, said we can have our conference virtually, and you put all of those components together? Are you the one that sprouted some new work from home idea and got the team engaged, although we were working in different remote locations? And so really showcase how you were able to step up in the time of uncertainty that everybody was facing, but you came out and showed great leadership, and that's going to really set you up for success later down the road.
Yes.
Yeah, so good. What about mechanics? Okay, number of pages, font size, experience versus function. Talk to us about that. Lori, you want to start?
Yeah, so first of all, you said experience versus functional, and I will tell you that a functional resume will not serve you well. So a functional resume is where you highlight your skills, and you don't add your chronology, or you briefly mention the chronology of your work experience at the bottom, and that is not going to effectively market you.
Because Lori, isn't it true they just go look for the experience anyway? So
Yes, they do. They skip right to the experience. They like, give me the good stuff, right? And so if you're not filling that out, you're not giving them what they're looking for. But also that type of resume is not applicant tracking system friendly. So you're not going to go into that applicant tracking system in an accurate manner. And there's a chance that you won't get a call simply because you use that functional resume. And it waves huge red flags, those functional resumes. And people think, well, I have been out of my career field, so I need to go to a functional resume. And that's just not the case. And so, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, like, what do you do? How do you integrate out of your career field job? But that's not something you need to do. So no functional resume. I'll start with that one. And then I'll leave the other areas to my colleagues.
Donna, bring us a fresh thought.
I don't have one.
So I'll talk about functional resumes. No.
Yeah, that was a big one, and people are still trying to do it. But you think about the transferable skills if you're trying to transition into something else. Every company needs a problem solver. Every company needs good customer service. Every company needs efficiency, productivity, cost containment, cost controls. Just don't use the industry jargon. You know, I don't mean make it generic by any means, because it's still about you and it still has to be relevant to the next company. But talk about it in terms that can be transferred to any industry. Wouldn't that work?
Yeah. Brenda.
And then I will add on the mechanic side, and I've shared this before, and I'm going to say it again because until the rules change, the margin on the kind of the outer border of your resume, that can be from 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and I very rarely will use a full inch, and I'll use that really if there is not a lot of content to work with, and so I can fill up a full page. Other than that, font size can be generally between size 10 and size 12 on the high end. Somebody asked me this morning, they said, we have room on the second page, should we go up in font size? And I said, actually, for the format of your resume, because now the lines are going to start to spill over just like by maybe one word, it's not actually wise for you because of everything fit just so. And so we have to kind of be mindful of those things. And then 1 page, 2 page, it depends, right? And so in the words of our great Donna here, it depends. If you have just graduated from college, or you have only had 1 job, or you've been at the same company for 20 years and really only have maybe 1 or 2 positions in that time, you may be able to consolidate everything into a single page. But imagine, like many people at this point in history, we've had multiple jobs in multiple different companies, sometimes different industries, and we are diverse. And so we cannot be contained to a single page. And so if you have enough content and value, as Lori said, and information that's meaningful, and it needs to span over the 2 pages, by all means. The vast majority of resumes that I write are still 2 pages today.
That's great. Thank you. What about, oh, Lori, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but try to keep it to 2 pages and not go beyond that. Even high-level executives very rarely need to go beyond 2 pages. So try to contain it to 2 pages. Chances are, if you're beyond 2 pages, you're giving them more information than they truly need. So
yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. But don't forget, Lori, if it's a federal resume,
yeah, that's a totally different
thing altogether. Which
that's another conversation.
So I know, but they still don't realize that they have to do a different format.
Yeah.
That can go 5-6 pages if it needs to.
And so this leads right into years of experience. It's a question we get all the time. How many years of experience should I include on my resume? So Donna, you want to start with this one?
Sure. You really don't need to go back more than 10, 15 years. But if some of your most relevant experience goes back further, then don't be afraid to put it on. Maybe you can eliminate the dates. Do another category at the end that says past experience or prior experience or other experience, something of that sort, to bring that up. But 10 or 15 years is good. It's your LinkedIn profiles where you want the detail.
That's good. That's great. All right, you guys, let's get into applicant tracking systems, ATS. What is it? Why are they important? And what do we have to, why does our resume matter when it comes to an ATS?
So I can start. So an applicant tracking system is a computerized system that a company uses to house all of their incoming applications. There are, I think, 400 plus different applicant tracking systems. So what we say in this is not necessarily applicable to all of them, but we're going to talk in generalities for most of them. And so what they do is they take your resume, and the applicant tracking system parses information out and creates a profile in their system for you as an applicant. And that's how they track whether or not you're qualified, so that the system will scan your resume for keywords and will gather your contact information and put it into their own place. So those ATSs are kind of the first eyes on your resume these days. Unfortunately, the first eyes on your resume are a computer. And so you need to know how to make it through that applicant tracking system scan in order to get your resume read by the next step, which is a human looking at it. Mm-hmm. And so I'll leave it to my colleagues to talk about how you make it through that scan.
Yeah. Donnie, you want to go?
I lost track of where we were with that. Boy, am I getting old. My thought processes are not flowing always. One thing though that she said about, what was that? Brenda, go.
Okay.
I have totally lost my train of thought.
I got you covered. And so essentially think about it like this. If you and 1,000 other people are applying for the same position, as a human recruiter, as a human HR leader, I do not have the bandwidth to read everybody's singular resumes, right? And so I'm going to automate that process as best I know how. And so I choose an applicant tracking system and I feed all those resumes into that system. Each resume then gets a score, and that score dictates whether you go on to the next phase. But the problem is, if your resume contains certain features that the applicant tracking system cannot read, then it is lowering your score. And so if you are including certain formatting elements like tables and headers, and I see this all the time, people put their contact and name, right information, important information in the header, and the ATS can't read that in general.
A formal header.
Right.
A formal header as opposed to it just being typed at the top. Yeah.
And so a lot of these things are doing you a disservice as a job seeker, because you may be reliant on a resume book and it looks really pretty. And you're like, I want my resume to be pretty like that one. And you're forgetting that a lot of those elements are the very things that are keeping you out of the running for the ideal position. Lori.
I will just want to warn you that most of the templates in Microsoft Word contain either text boxes, tables, or headers. And so they're setting you up for failure from the very start. So you're better off not to use a Microsoft Word template, because those formatting tools are going to actually lower your chances of success for your resume.
Yeah, I think they're well-meaning, Microsoft, Canva. I think they're very well-meaning in trying to give you a leg up or a visual advantage, but they forget that there is science behind this that has always got to be at the top of your mind. And so as a job seeker, it's it's your role to stay informed on what is required to really pass through those applicant tracking systems, because these are the things that are creating the quote unquote resume black holes for you.
Yeah. Keywords, I thought maybe I'd talk a little bit about. Go through the job postings that are job announcements that you're interested in. Use a highlighter, a red pen, and pull out those keywords and key phrases and make sure that you use them in your resume. Some of the more sophisticated systems can tell the difference between Bachelor of Science and BS degree, but some can't. So you want to write to the lowest common denominator, some of the older versions of an applicant tracking system that doesn't use much AI or artificial intelligence. So it's so important. Use a program like JobScan to put your resume through after you've finished writing it and see what kind of a score you get. And believe it or not, 60 is even a decent score. So don't feel it has to be 100 or 95%, but you'd be surprised that if you really haven't done it, it could be as low as 15%. So 60 to 80 it's a good score in JobScan.
So that's great information. Thank you, ladies. What about, how do I even get started? You know, there's so many online tools, there's the Word templates, but how do I even get started putting a resume together? Thoughts on that?
Call a professional.
Yes.
Call a professional.
Yes, indeed. I mean, ideally, just start a native Microsoft Word.doc file. Just start it from top to bottom, include all the right information in there. You can add formatting elements later. There are some safe formatting elements, right? You can use shaded boxes, which is different from a text box, and so kind of be aware there. And one of the things that I've even found myself doing is converting, instead of using 3 columns for those kind of bulleted keyword skills, I've actually just started to go horizontal, maybe with a column or a vertical slash in between, because it's just a little bit safer. Again, lowest common denominator, not all the applicant tracking systems can read columns. And so I'm going to steer clear of those elements whenever possible. But yeah, just get the information down. That's really the most important thing beyond formatting is content. I really don't care sometimes how pretty it is. Do you have the experience that I'm looking for? Do you have the skill set that I'm craving? And so that is more important than formatting, but you can add some formatting elements after the fact. And you can also create a different version of your resume, one that is very pretty and Microsofty and Canva, and it looks like a work of art, but then you have a more simplistic version that you use for uploading into applicant tracking systems. And just make sure that you understand the differences.
I just want to add that, so I believe that resumes, like people, it's what's on the inside that matters, right? It's not necessarily, it doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be, you know, really highly formatted. It doesn't need to have that graphic element to it. It really matters about what's inside the resume. Have you taken the time to sell your value, to really think about what does this employer need, right? So how can I solve their problems? How can I showcase the value that I can bring to this employer? If you create content and you lay it out in a simple, easy to follow format, it's not 8-point font with, you know, an 1/8 of an inch margin that I can read, and you make it easy to ingest, and you just really showcase who you are and how you can add value, that's how you get your resume through that process. It doesn't matter if it has 6 colors on it and, you know, tables and it's fancy, as long as it's got good stuff on the inside, just like people.
All right, I have 2 questions left. We could go all day long, but I have 2 questions left. First of all, we've heard that you need to create a new resume for every job I apply for. Is that really true?
You need to at least tweak it for every job you apply for. Do not depend on a cover letter for information that's relevant to the job you're applying for. 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to read that cover letter, especially if they don't see what they like in the resume itself. So yeah, make sure that you have all the keywords in, you check it every time.
And I say it all the time, this is where we kind of separate the men from the boys and the women from the girls and the lazy job seekers from the one that's going to get there really, really quickly. Will you take the time to put in the work on the front end and sit down? Listen, this is why you can't apply to 100 jobs in a week, because there's physically not enough time for that. And so if I'm taking my time and I have a job posting in front of me and I'm scanning through that, like Donna said, with my highlighter or my red pen, and then I'm incorporating that exact language into my resume every single time, that takes time. And it usually takes like an hour and a half, if not more, on top of their application process that they want you to go through. And so you physically don't have enough time in a day or a week to do 100 of those. And so quality over quantity is going to win that race. But yes, take the time. We don't have, if you don't have time to do it, what is it? If you don't have time to like do it twice or what have you, you certainly want to invest that time correctly on the front end, as opposed to just, I'm just going to send this resume to everybody and hope something sticks. I got to take the time to do this thing right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I like to say there is no such thing as a generic effective resume, right? So when you try to write a resume that appeals to everyone, it appeals to no one, honestly. So you don't want to make the employer dig through your resume to find the good stuff. The good stuff needs to jump off the page at them. And if you make them dig, they're going to move on to the next candidate, right? So you will get so much further with 10 focused resumes where you take the time to research the company. What are their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities, their threats? Read the job posting and highlight those keywords, but don't just stop at the job posting. Dig in and do a little research and take the time. Like Brenda said, an hour and a half per application. You could even go further than that, but I promise you those 10 focused, targeted resumes that you send out will get you so much further and so many more calls than 100 generic resumes. Absolutely.
And follow up. Use your LinkedIn profile too, with your contacts. Find out who works at these companies. Find out what they know about this job or the people that are hiring. Yeah, Brenda's perfectly right that 10 jobs is about all you can do in a period of time.
Good. Yeah, because the more you're applying for, the less hits you're going to have if you're just submitting your resume to everything.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question, ladies. I have seen resumes that you guys do. They're phenomenal. I feel like you get the best out of people. It's really unique and interesting. So let's talk a little bit about like the value of getting a resume done versus doing it on your own. We know it costs hundreds of dollars often to get a good resume done. But then could I talk to a recruiter at a staffing firm or some recruiter, a corporate recruiter, to give me some ideas? So what do you think about that? I know this is the business you guys are all in. Tell us about what you see when people get their resume professionally done.
Well,
I'm not quite understanding the question.
Yeah. So it's basically the value of getting a resume done by a professional that's certified and has done this for a living.
For me, I think about things around my home where I would call in a professional. And so I think about how my toilet was running a couple years ago. And I mean, somebody says to me, oh, you can just run to Home Depot and get the part. It'll be like $3 and you can just pop it in. And I'm like, but I don't know how to do that. And so I could probably watch, a dozen YouTube videos and read a couple plumbing manuals and trial and error and maybe figure it out and maybe have a big mess. Or I could just call in a professional because I don't know what the heck I'm doing because I'm not a plumber. And so much to, in a very similar vein, most people are not professional resume writers. This is not your lane. Your lane is your work that you do. And you're really darn good at that. You're the best accountant. You're the best engineer. You're the best information technology pro ever this side of the Mississippi. But you are not good at telling your story. And we are. We understand how to ask the right questions to get down to the root of what makes you special, to provide all that value and all this rich content, and to making sure that the information in your resume is going to survive those applicant tracking system journeys. That's what it's all about. We just want to see you win, whether it's with us or if you can read all those books and figure it out on your own, go for it, knock yourself out. But just make sure that you know what you're doing. And if you don't, reach out for a lifeline. We're here to help.
Yeah.
Right. Make it a teamwork project. I know that there's some resume writers that just have you fill out a form and then they write the resume and it's all done. Some of the what do they call it? Resume mills. Be careful of those, because it should be a team project between you and your resume writer. You have the information about your background, but they know how to put it together. The professional does.
Yeah.
Have you ever had someone compliment you for something and you're like, why is that special? And you like downgraded what you did, right? And so we do that every day in our jobs. You're like, well, I just, streamlined the process of warehouse intake. And so if I ask you the right questions, I could say, well, when you streamlined the intake, did it increase efficiency? Were you able to process more packages per hour? Did that save the company money? So we're trained to pull that information out of you. I tell people I mine it out of you, right? So I poke at you until you give me the information that I want. And so that's the important thing that, sometimes we tend to downplay what we do well because we don't want to brag, right? Oh, I don't want to brag, right? So it's not bragging if it's a fact. And so we will help you see the facts of what make you really good at what you do and showcase the value you bring. And that's what we all specialize in.
That's true. My favorite reaction after you guys work with someone and I've been around is they get their resume back and they're like, this is me. Wow.
I'd hire me.
I am impressive. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I have a million more questions, but we just ran out of time. So let's do this again. Ladies, I will also make sure that your contact information, if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can get a hold of you. But thank you so much for being here, and we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.